got the amendment in, and fortunately, I don't have a hard copy to work off of. Hopefully, it'll get here when it does. But why don't I start the meeting? Everybody all set? Are we ready to go, James?
Yep.
Recording is all set for you, Chair.
Okay, we all set? Everybody hears, right? Okay, let me try. Let me go. Let me read the script. As chair of the House Resources, Recreation, and Development Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor and as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the House Rule 67 and the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. This is an executive session on Senate Bill 146. Please note that there are no physical location for members of the public to observe and listen to contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that all members of the committee and select legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during the meeting through Zoom electronic meeting platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting by the Zoom platform or by telephone. All necessary access information have been made available in the House calendar and through the electronic calendar on the General Court website. Notice for this meeting the notice for this meeting notice complies with House rules and RSA 91A. Anyone who has a problem accessing the meeting should call 271-3600 or email hcs@leg.state.nh.us. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. I want to introduce the staff that is meeting assisting us. Brad Greenland, committee researcher. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. With that, I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Corrigan.
Home and alone.
Representative Carr.
I am present. I am in my office and currently alone.
Representative Creighton.
I'm present in the committee room.
Representative Dodge.
Present and alone.
Clerk is here. Representative Healy.
Home office and alone.
Representative Mayville.
I am present and alone.
Representative Post.
I am present at the LOB office.
Representative Smith.
Present and alone.
Representative Spang.
Present and alone.
Representative Grassi.
I'm present and my wife is in the house.
Representative Gottlieb.
Present alone.
Representative Cohen.
I am present and alone.
Representative Weston.
I'm present and alone.
Representative Connors.
Present and alone.
Representative Bale. Representative Bale.
I'm here and I'm alone.
Representative Kelly.
I'm here and alone.
Representative Moran,
I'm here and alone.
Representative Murder,
Present here in the committee room.
Representative LaSalle,
Present here in the LOB.
Chairman Zulu.
Here in the committee room. We have, is that everyone?
21 present.
Okay. Thank you very much. What we are here for is to exec House Bill 146. It's an omnibus bill. It has, hold on for a second.
The hard copy of the one you sent.
This is the hard copy of the amendment. Well, thank you. Pardon me for stopping, but now I finally have, I can finally read the amendment that I've been waiting for. The House Bill, or Senate Bill 146 is an omnibus bill, and it started off with 6 parts, 3 of which were the purview of the Resources Committee. 2 were the purview of the Fish and Game Committee, and 1 was the purview of E&A, Environmental and Agriculture. We have had hearings on each of those sections, and also there was a hearing on a non-germane amendment that we also had. So that is now attached to, there will be attached to the bill with this amendment. So go, just so you have on your screens amendment number 1573. But first, I think I should request Representative Crichton, if you would give me I would accept the motion to ought to pass as amended for House Bill, Senate Bill 146.
Mr. Chairman, I motion that we vote ought to pass on House Bill or Senate Bill 146.
Ought to pass with amendment?
With amendment, yes, sir.
Okay. And do I hear a second?
I'll second it, Representative Smith.
Motion by Representative Creighton, seconded by Representative Smith. Now that is just to get it out on the floor. I think we should discuss the amendment as it exists, and also the bill itself. This is my first crack at an omnibus bill, so bear with me. The amendment. The changes that that have been made to Senate Bill 146 were as follows. The original bill had a part 2 in it. That part 2 concerned the solid waste disposal, and a solid waste disposal goal that, and we had a joint hearing with E&A to go over that bill. That bill, that part of the bill, that was part 2. That has been removed. That what has happened with that bill, with my blessing, is the contents of part two was added to an E&A bill that is still in the possession of the Senate. This was, and the part two was, the contents of part two became an amendment to that bill. That was House Bill 413. The amendment was put together by the chair of E&A and the sponsor of Senate Bill 140. It was a friendly amendment there. And the bill, that amendment passed the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, and it was passed by the Senate. And it is, and the bill as amended, Senate House Bill 413 is now in the hands of E&A, and we are no longer, it's no longer part of our purview. It's no longer part of this of 146. So that part of the bill is no longer with us. It's in the committee where it ought to have been in the first place. So the fact that part two, is vacant. We had had a non-germane amendment associated with this bill when we had our hearing. That was a simple change of a date for extending the firefighting foam take back program. That's all. Is this just a change of a date that is now will now be considered called part two. In part three of the bill, which is part of the fish and game responsibility, there was that part three is a issue, is a discusses, or concerns the prevention of zoonotic disease transmission, and the only change in that part of the bill, and that part was a change of one word, and the word was from emergency to executive, and we referred to the zoonotic means you can catch a disease, animal transmitted diseases, and the part of the change that we put in, and was at the recommendation of Fish and Game, was to change a phrase from emergency order to executive order, because emergency order, especially with the state of emergency we're in, has a different connotation. All you really need is executive order. On part four, there was a significant rewrite, which in that part four is, excuse me, part four, there was nothing. No, I'm mistaken. Part four, there was nothing, no changes there. Part five, which establishes a surcharge on certain saltwater licenses, and established a fund for derelict fishing gear and coastal cleanup. That that had to have a significant rewrite because there was a amendment submitted by the sponsor that clarified some language. And also there was, at the recommendation of the Fish and Game, we changed the name of the fund that the monies would go into. We changed it from well, it's now called the Derelict Fishing Gear and Coastal Cleanup Fund, as opposed to it also had mentioned at the time it mentioned another, I think it was called Fishing for Freedom. Fishing for Energy, yeah. Fishing for Energy, and that was a specific source of funding and really shouldn't be put in the in statute. Finally, let's see, and finally we have taken this is new. If some of you may know, House Bill 235, addressing the impacts to other water users from new sources of water for community water systems. This committee has passed that bill twice. It is before the House, it went to the Senate. They put a amendment on it concerning, they put an amendment on it on the House version concerning the PFAS, the PFAS fund, where that is something that we are very interested in. We will be talking about what we will be doing with that bill when it, whether we do a committee of conference or do a concur or non-concur and ask a committee of conference. In preparation for that, we have added as part of this amendment the House version of House Bill 235, which is onto this amendment, so that in case the negotiations don't go well, I hope negotiations go well if we have a committee of conference, but just in case, we'll just be a belt and suspenders. The motion, part of the amendment, whereas part 7 will be placing the House text of House Bill 235 on this bill. So those are the changes from the amendment. Now first of all, I think I will open it to discussion. We probably, if you want, we can discuss the amendment. I think we'll discuss both the amendment and the bill at once. I would think if there's won't take any vote until we are ready. But are there any comments on the amendment and any comments on the bill?
clarify, this is amendment 1573.
Yes, Amendment 1573. Any comments on the bill? Any comments on the amendment?
So,
Representative.
Representative Smith has her hand raised.
Oh, okay, but, well, you were first. So.
okay. So my
Representative
concern,
Post.
my concern is, section 3, regarding the, zoonotic, transmission, and the, I feel with this one, when I look at it, and I spoke to a lot of different people about it, and came down to talking to actual members of the Fish and Game that go out there and do the work, and they felt that it was logistically difficult, not enforceable, and they said, how are they going to monitor this wildlife looking for it? I mean, and they said, they felt that this was a way to create health certificates for every animal coming into the state. And the problem with that, again, is enforcement and tracking it down and manpower issues and financials. I do feel it's an overreach of the government. We're adding more fees and punitive damages to folks too. And it is a broad reach in the fact that there is nothing that's happening right now. This is not addressing something that is currently a problem. This is addressing a problem for the future. And I realize they want to put things in place, but right in the section that we have of Part 3, it does say that they refer to the governor if executive order is deemed necessary. And if he can do that anyway, I see no point in us doing this prematurely until the logistics are worked out for making this program to be workable, operable by the people that are on the ground doing the work. And I feel if they don't see a need for it, I don't know why we should keep that. Do understand the limitations of, we cannot pull this out of the bill. And so I find that a little frustrating. I don't know if we can still do an amendment to make some changes to that so that I can vote for the rest of the bill, because I do feel the rest of the bill is worth passing. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Now, you realize that Fish and Game testified in favor of it, right? And the Fish and Game Committee was unanimously in favor of it.
Yes, I do realize that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Representative Smith.
Representative Smith.
Actually, thank you, Mr. Chair, for taking my question and a comment also. The WHO has called for a ban of the sale of live wild mammals in food markets to prevent the emergence of new diseases. So if that's something that's going to be happening, being recommended worldwide to prevent the spread of diseases like, salmonella, COVID, whatever, I mean, just all different kinds of things, it seems like we would just be kind of setting up a program for that to happen. And as far as the governor's executive powers, as we've seen in the last year, a lot of people have said the legislature should have some say in what goes into executive orders, and this would actually put that in statute, so the legislature would have had a say in it. But my original comment was about the other Fish and Game part with the derelict fishing gear, and changing the name of the fund to leave out the words fishing for energy was when I spoke with the prime sponsor about this, he was very much in favor of that. He said it made it a much clearer thing. And the other part of the amendment that the prime sponsor introduced was taking shrimp out of the equation. And that is because the shrimp fishery in the New England is pretty well shut down, and the facilities for even processing shrimp have been shut down because there are no shrimp. So that was the reason for that being removed from the bill, in case anyone wondered. That was all I wanted to say.
Anyone else wish to speak on? Any-
Sir.
Representative Creighton?
Yeah, so just back to the zoonotic portion of the bill. In my mind, a couple of things. First is if we know that these diseases are prevalent based on WHO, and that the Fish and Game has come to us and said, hey, we need to do this, and they've testified that we need to do it, and that they have the resources to do it. I don't know that I would want to be on the side answering to my constituents saying, I could have done something, but I failed to do it. And if something did happen and we had the power to prevent it via the language in this bill, I think that that's our responsibility to do that. I don't think there's overreach. This is the Fish and Game doing what they say is their job to do. We're giving them the legal background to do that. And if there was a cost to it, I think it would have come up as an FN, which it did not. And so I think we're just giving them the authority to act reasonably, as Representative Smith said, in accordance with WHO guidance.
Think any other questions or any questions or comments on this issue?
Sir, I see no questions.
All right, I just called your attention the testimony from the Fish and Game Department, where, and it was Paul Sanderson, the legal coordinator, who testified in favor. And one of the things he did say in his testimony was, we have worked closely on Section 3, which is the element we're talking about, with Senator Waters and the Department of Agriculture to deal with concerns over the potential spread of zoonotic diseases within the state of New Hampshire, and acknowledge that the COVID-19 pandemic has brought this concern to the forefront in the state and across the world. As such, an expression of concern for the issue is warranted in the statutes. Existing processes for our two departments, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services, are in place to carefully watch for the emergence of any issues and to seek assistance from the legislature and the governor when necessary. In addition, the requirements of Fish and Game law the quotes in RSA sets forth a workable process to respond to challenges when and if they are identified, and we support the proposal. So Fish and Game on the record did testify in favor. Personally, I think the way this government operates is the executive branch is very relatively limited in what it can do without funding. We as we basically represent the people, the legislature, and we provide the funding and in order for the executive branch to operate. And part of that responsibility of that is that we tell them what the priorities are or should be. Doesn't stop them from reacting, but But they do need to be able to have plans in place. They do need to they are expected. I think the government is expected to think ahead, to think, not to wait for the problem to show up, but to anticipate the problem. That doesn't always work, but they do. They're paying us, and they're paying the people are paying the legislature. Not much, but they're paying us, and but also the executive branch to look forward, to look at, and to plan ahead, to plan for the what can happen, and the last thing you want to do is to just you have to have something happen and you weren't thinking that you didn't plan for it. When an attack comes, but that could be a disease, you fight the battle of what you got, with who's there, what plans you have, and if you don't have any plans, then you're really in trouble. So that's just my feeling on it. Fine.
Yes, thank you. In reference to your comments, can I ask, generally, when there's a bill like this, why wouldn't there be more specifics in how it would be carried out? This is the generalities that I'm really having a problem with, and when I talk to other people, they also express concern for that. So is that normal for it not to really have any specifics at all? It was extremely general and broad.
That is always an issue with legislation. You don't want to micromanage, but you want to make you'd like to make reasonable direction, and that always is part of the skill of legislation. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes you don't really know. Generally, we do have a rule system, so you don't want to go so far into place things that should be done in rules. Let the rules generated by the administration, so you don't want to get too deep into that, but there are times when you might have to. But it's on a case-by-case basis. In this case, in this instance, you're giving them a general direction. There may be follow-ons. This is the first step, at least in my view. Did that answer your question? Maybe someone else.
In comparison to other bills, you would say this is a normal bill that, in terms of?
At this point, yeah. I'll go ask for some help from anyone else, and even this is basically on general procedures and general thoughts. And when you put a bill like this or a bill like this out, which is on this section, it's a general. It has general discussions.
Representative Grassi has his hand up.
Representative Grassi, is it?
Yes, yeah. Just to give you a hint, I mean, you've explained it pretty well, and Mr. Chairman. I think that what we do is we basically set up the structure and the direction we'd like to see it go, and then the executive branch has to implement and develop and implement the rules that support the direction we're asking them to move in. So this is not unusual, and this is what most of our bills look like. We say we need to address this issue. How the technicalities of how we address it are more in the minutia that's developed in the rules within the departments that are responsible to enforce it. They have to figure out how they can enforce something, what they're capable of doing, what their financial availability is, and they make those rules to enforce the direction we send them in.
Thank you.
Did that help?
Yes, it did. My only thought on that is that we're putting forth something that we have no idea what the rules are gonna be and if it's gonna work. And again, I just, maybe it's a freshman thing, but I would like to see something tightened up or, you know, I guess if we don't like what happens with it, as a legislature, we change it, correct?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Erasers do have, pencils do have erasers, or except we do pens now. But yes, yeah, if there are issues, we will get involved. But normally in such cases like this, there will be issues around funding, things like that. There's always going to be. Legislation in governing is an iterative process. Yeah, we may, of course, we might not see this again because this is a fish and game bill. So, but now you asked a question also around amendments. We could, there is the ability to put forth an amendment. We can't just, well, we can take this portion out as an amendment. If, but you know, we'd have to have one put together. We'd have to vote on it. If you would like, we can take a straw poll. Wouldn't fit, you know, it would not be an amendment, but if you felt that you wanted to see this section removed, you could ask, and I would then ask in your behalf for just a straw poll of who would like an amendment. Who would support an amendment to remove this section? If it doesn't, you know, but obviously if it doesn't, if you don't get a plurality, it's not gonna.
Right.
Yeah, it wouldn't be worth our time to go and get one.
Right.
To vote on. So it's your choice.
So I would like to see if there was any
Yes.
interest in removing it.
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman.
Yes.
Question, please. When the Fish and Game Department testified on this, did they reflect whether there was current law concerning zoonotic animals?
There are a lot of, I did not hear that. They did say that there are laws, and they intimated that there was laws concerning domesticated animals, especially around health and stuff like that. I can't recall their testifying to whether there were what other laws existed. Unfortunately, Fish and Game were sitting where there was the chair and Fish and Game and several other representatives. They were doing a bunch of the questioning and we were listening. I do not recall any mention of the
Follow up?
Yeah.
It would seem to me that if there isn't any state law concerning this, there needs to be some sort of enabling legislation so that if something happens, let's say we discover that there's diseases that are being transmitted from a domestic animal that we currently, let's say bulldogs, for instance.
Yeah.
All of a sudden we figure out that bulldogs transmit disease to humans. Well, then we would need something in the statutes to allow Fish and Game to take care of that.
I would say think that there is such data on, but you have in front of you the actual bill itself.
Spain has a hand up, I'll put the bill.
Just to be able to, just so you can look at the,
I have the bill.
you have the bill, you have the bill, what?
It's on page 2, you say?
146, the original, and it's part 3. Goes through what, and it has definitions of this is a very, the bill is fairly narrow. If you read the part, if you want a copy, just to be able to do it, Troy, to be able to read the specific section of the bill, which doesn't change much of anything. The only thing that changes is but yeah, I mean, I can't give you a definitive answer on whether you can or can't. What the laws read concerning and the powers of Fish and Game and the Department of Agriculture and the Health and Human Services. I would be surprised that they didn't have stuff already in place around those issues. This is around the mixing of and handling of these type of these wild animals.
So you got Representative Spang and Representative Smith.
All right. Okay. Who is first?
Spang was first.
Let me. You okay?
Yep.
Okay. Representative Spang for question or state.
Yes. Thank you. By now, the conversation having gone on, I have a couple of comments. The first one is relative to rules. We have found in the past that there is a serious problem if we try to put too many details into statute, because circumstances change either outside the State House or within the agencies that make it impossible to adjust the way something is supposed to be handled by the agency. The agency would have the flexibility to adapt to those changes if it weren't in statute, and didn't require an act of the legislature to basically tweak a procedure that the agency would be bringing in. So I have great faith in the agencies to be able to do what they can afford to do under the circumstances that they are facing. The other thing is, I wanted to mention that there are always hearings before rules while there is rulemaking going on. And that's an opportunity for the people who are affected to have input into the proposed rules. And also legislators can participate in those hearings and influence what they think the rules should be. So it isn't as though we're just giving them a carte blanche and then seeing what they make of it. And I'm also, next page, I noticed that section 2 does not relate strictly to the markets. And I agree, the market seems to be kind of 3,000 miles away, but it would certainly be embarrassing to be caught in the COVID kind of situation when we've certainly been well warned what happens. However, where it talks about wildlife species that are not part of a market, but they're caged and handled and transported with livestock or domestic animals, there are really severe consequences when wildlife carries a disease to a herd of cattle, for example. So I think that this, the market part of it seems a little far-fetched. in our current environment, I think that addressing that whole problem of transferring of these diseases into our own domestic animals, be they pets or herds, and thence to humans, absolutely must be controlled. So, you know, I think this is a matter of an ounce of caution. And when I first saw the bill, I thought, give me a break. But the more I thought about it and the closer I read it, I began to think, why not take this precaution?
Representative Smith.
Okay, Representative Smith for comment or question.
Yeah, the first thing I wanted to say is that those of us who are here remotely have no idea who the person is who is speaking in the committee room, unless, you know, it's the chair because I recognize his voice. But if we can hear their name at some point so we know which member of which colleague of ours is speaking, that would be helpful. The other comment I wanted to make is we have a lot of questions that seem to be directed towards Fish and Game and Paul Sanderson's testimony. And Paul Sanderson is in the meeting. And if we have questions, maybe he could be best answering them as opposed to us trying to figure out what he meant.
I wasn't aware of that.
Stand by.
And Representative Smith, your admonition was well received.
He's got his hand up.
I
He's on a panelist. He's coming over.
I should, I will be calling people's names as I speak to them and ask you.
That would be helpful. Thanks.
I apologize.
Mr. Sanderson is up.
Yeah, I'm a rookie at this. Mr. Sanderson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here and ready to answer any question that a member might have.
Well, I think, have you been hearing some of the discussion that?
Yes, and I would give you this comment with regard to existing laws. You'll note here that this particular bill looks to add a new section 207.14a. 207.14 already provides us with certain powers with regard to importation, possession, or release of wildlife. And we do, in fact, have an entire series of administrative rules, FIS 800, by which we administer that particular duty. We also have powers that are given to the executive director in RSA 206.10 that give him the authority to deal with the movement of animals across state lines that might cause the introduction of disease. However, Senator Waters identified, and we certainly agree with him, that there is a tremendous opportunity here for transmission, not only among wildlife, but also among domesticated animals. And what he was really trying to do here was make sure that the departments are working together in order to be both vigilant and willing to identify this and bring the issue to the legislature and the governor's office in the event that action is required. So it is exactly what the members have identified it is. It's authorization legislation. We do adopt rules. They will be placed into our existing FIS 800 series, and it fills in the gap that we have here with regard to what we've learned from the COVID-19 experience. I hope that answers your questions.
One of the questions came up that, well, why do you need legislation to be pointed and, you know, do this, do that? Can't you just do that on your own? Or can you respond to that? You know, that why you think the legislation is important to be able to that gives you some kind of direction.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. The reason that authorizing legislation is important is because of the question of enforcement. We would in fact be looking for these sorts of things, but if we have no enabling legislation that allows us to move forward to take action, that might involve the seizure of particular items of property or the seizure of wildlife, cooperation with other departments, then we might be less able to effectively deal with an identified threat to human health. We would be doing this in conjunction with the Governor's Office, the Attorney General's Office, the Department of Agriculture, and the Department of Health and Human Services. We certainly take private property rights very seriously, but we also take human disease very seriously and would not be looking to go out and do these sorts of things on our own. We recently had an incident here, not involving the transmission of disease, but the transmission of invasive species. In our case, it was a question of zebra mussels that are a highly invasive species. They were being imported into our state and being sold as part of aquatic items that we placed inside fish tanks. If they had ever escaped and gone out into the environment, they multiply rapidly, have no particular predators, and can cause tremendous damage to water systems and sewer systems. So in that case, we worked closely with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, we worked closely with the Department of Agriculture because they're the ones who regulate pet stores where these were being sold, the Department of Health and Human Services, and also the Governor's Office and the Attorney General's Office to effectively contain that particular importation. So the system is there and the system works. And it's something where we take these issues seriously, but in cooperation with our colleagues across the executive branch.
Representative Post for a question for Mr. Sanderson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is, you have something in place, so the addition is just this part 3 is just put in to identify wildlife not mixing with domestic. And the other question on that is, could you talk about the logistics of how the people who have boots on the ground who would be looking for this how things would happen? Or traditionally, how they do happen in finding these types of things?
Yes, if I go back to the example that I just used of the zebra mussels, the question of the invasive species moving into the state was actually first identified by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And so they rely upon us as their state partners to actually implement this within the state. So when we talk about the first part, which is the scanning, the idea of identifying issues, many agencies, in fact, are watching for things like this at both the federal and state level. Once a threat is identified, then they will come to the agency that is most able to deal with where the threat seems to be located. If it was dealing, for example, with domesticated animals and their movement, they would be going to the Department of Agriculture. But of course, there could be a risk if there had been exposure to wildlife along the way, and that would involve us. So as we talk about boots on the ground, it really is this idea of identification and screening, and then trying to develop a response that is most likely to be protective of human health and also respective of private property rights. I know that's a very general answer, but on the other hand, these issues I think are somewhat unique as they present themselves.
Thank you.
Any other questions or on this issue?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sympathetic to the intent of the bill. I just had a question of, it says in the bill, the Fish and Game Department shall monitor available animals and fish not currently restricted under state and federal wildlife trafficking laws. Is there any, would it be too difficult to just add these species to this list? Or is it just quicker to do it this way? I'm just curious about the procedure. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I think your question is about how the monitoring occurs. Is that correct?
Sort of, yes. That would be helpful information, but also, so you already have restrictions on species under this current, currently listed, a list of animals that are restricted under state and federal wildlife trafficking laws. So if there were a new species, such as zebra mussels or bats or something, that just be added to the list.
Yes, Representative. If new species are identified or new specific threats are identified, we can amend our administrative rules in order to determine whether those particular species should be taken and placed upon either a controlled or a prohibited list. And yes, those particular specific species are identified currently for us in our FIS 800 rules. But we would amend them if we had new information.
So for a follow-up, but but this language, you want this language a quicker process, I assume.
Thank you, Representative. Yes, even the process of amendment with an administrative rule takes 6 to 9 months, unless we do something on an emergency basis.
Yep.
So this particular enabling legislation would enable us to act within a period of hours or days in cooperation with the Attorney General's office and the Governor's office to make sure that any threat to human health or to the value of private property was addressed immediately.
Thank you.
That answers your question, Representative? Okay. Anyone else?
There are no further hands raised.
No further. Thank you very much for your help, Mr. Sanderson. Okay, any other questions on this or comments? You have I'll ask for a straw vote as to whether or not we would wish to remove this section from the bill. Anybody who would look to remove this section from the bill, and should we put forward, we would require recessing to get an amendment if it looks like there would be a majority. All those who would favor an amendment, please raise your hands. Is there anyone on the screen? I see
Representative Dodge has his hand raised.
Representative Dodge and Representative Post. Anyone else?
So I see no one else with their hand raised.
So no one else.
No.
Oh,
Get a little restroom.
he goes to the restroom, so it's basically two people would, so if that would not pass, I don't believe. At least the way I count.
I feel a little bit better about it after, the conversation and the gentleman who spoke. I do feel that Representative Harvey Bola's question about if it could just be kind of tacked on to what, they have initially. I guess I still question that a little bit in terms of if they do have that in place, is it strictly just the wildlife portion that wasn't contained in it that created this to be put together?
I think it might even be narrower than that. It's for those animals, that are considered taxons, basically wildlife, and it is monitoring for that.
So any mammal can be a taxon. So
yes, but
that's
these are
the
wildlife.
broad part, right? So this
is wildlife, at least as I read it.
And that's something they didn't have in there before. and they can't really add it on because it would take too long for them to do that in their rules.
They can only add things to rules that that are allowed in statute. You know, statutes come first,
Okay,
then you make
got it.
rules.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah, we get mad when they make rules that don't have statute backing.
Thank you.
Anyone else on any other portion of the bill or of the amendment?
So there are no hands raised?
There are no hands raised. In that case, I'll call for a vote on the amendment. And then I'll call for a vote on the bill as amended. Representative Horgan, are you there? Representative Horgan, you there?
I'm here.
In the absence of the vice chair and in the absence of the senior Republican, you are now the senior Republican, so you will be acting as the vice chair, so you will be the first one to vote because normally it's the vice chair who's the first one to vote, so you will be the first one voting. You got that? So everything hangs on you now. So, okay. I see somebody, Representative Spang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are we going to have no discussion about any other aspects of the bill?
If you like, you could
We're
ask.
voting on the entire bill now, right?
Right. Yeah, we'll be voting on the amendment, but I said, is there any other discussion on the bill or the amendment?
Oh, okay. I thought we were just going to vote on the whether we want to amend it or not. But there are other
I think we already did that. We already did that as a straw poll, and there would be.
Okay. How about the other aspects of the bill?
Go if you have a concern on any portion of the bill, now's the time.
Right. Well, I had raised quite a hullabaloo about changing the definition of a high tide. I was involved in the definition that is currently in statute. I called Steve Kuchar from the coastal program to ask him about it. I was a little disturbed when I guess Senator Sherman brought it in, and he's had a lot of battles with his shoreland property owners on the beaches about how close they can build to the beach and how where the property line ends where they can forbid people to be on their beach. So I thought that we ought to be looking at the ecological impact also, and also the fact that we're expecting to have a sea level rise, as Senator Waters well knows, having done that study. And I thought, looking at 19 years, starting now in the next 19 years, we're expecting that line to move. The high water, the average over 19 years of the high tide is going to move. That whole argument was obviated by the fact that Steve Kuchar said that this change was required by a court order. And it wasn't a case about a property owner or anything else. It was the particular language that we have in our statute. And they said that we must change it according to what this bill is asking for. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Representative Spang. Any other comments or questions on on this or any other portion of the bill or of the amendment to the bill?
Can I get the amendment number, please?
The amendment number is
1573.
1573?
1573.
Title was Part 5.
I have so many papers in front of me that they all look alike.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I make a motion to, ought to pass on the amendment 1573?
We actually, it's on we have one already. This was a motion by Representative Creighton.
There's a straw vote doesn't count as a vote though, does it? A
Pardon?
vote on amendment.
No, pardon, I didn't get the first part of the question.
A straw vote doesn't.
A straw vote doesn't, I
Right.
think any
Right.
formal vote has to be,
Right, this was not about this was a straw vote on whether or not we would pursue having an amendment to remove part 3 of the bill.
okay.
And we took the straw vote, and if we went ahead of an amendment, it would not
Then-
pass.
Right, then we would need a formal vote, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
we would-
got it.
right. Any other questions or any other questions, comments before we proceed with the vote on the amendment?
I see no hands raised.
There be no hand raised on the amendment. Clerk, please call the roll,
Great, thank you, Chair.
starting with Representative Horgan.
Okay, Representative Horgan.
Yes.
Horgan votes yes. Representative Carr.
Yes.
Carr votes yes. Representative Creighton.
Creighton votes yes.
Creighton votes yes. Representative Dodge.
Yes.
Dodge votes yes. The clerk votes yes. Representative Healy.
Yes.
Healy votes yes. Representative Mayville.
Representative Mayville votes yes to the amendment.
Mayville votes yes. Representative Post.
Representative Post votes yes.
Post votes yes. Representative Smith.
Representative Smith?
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Representative Smith, yes.
Yes. Representative Spang.
Yes.
Spang votes yes. Representative Brassey.
Yes.
Brassey votes yes. Representative Gottlieb.
Yes.
Gottlieb votes yes. Representative Cohen.
Yes.
Cohen votes yes. Representative Weston.
Yes.
Weston votes yes. Representative Connors.
Representative Connors votes yes.
Connors votes yes. Representative Vale.
Representative Vale votes yes.
Vale votes yes. Representative Kelly.
Representative Kelly votes yes.
Kelly votes yes. Representative Moran.
Rep Moran votes yes.
Moran votes yes. Representative Murner.
Yes.
Murner votes yes. Representative LaSalle.
Yes.
Yes. LaSalle votes yes. And Representative Francouz.
Yes.
Yes, it's 21 yeas.
21, yes. The amendment passes. Ought to pass as amended. Any, seeing no hands, no hands?
No answer.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Passed as amended. Representative Horgan.
Yes.
Horgan votes yes. Representative Carr.
Yes.
Carr votes yes. Representative Creighton.
Yes.
Creighton votes yes. Representative Dodge.
Yes.
Dodge votes yes. The clerk votes yes. Representative Healy.
Representative Healy votes yes.
Healy votes yes. Representative Mayville.
Representative Mayville votes yes.
Mayville votes yes. Representative Post.
Representative Post votes yes.
Post votes yes. Representative Smith.
Representative Smith, yes.
Smith, yes. Representative Spang.
Representative Spang votes yes.
Votes yes. Representative Grassi.
Representative Grassi votes yes.
Grassi votes yes. Representative Gottlieb.
Representative Gottling votes yes.
Votes yes. Representative Cohen.
Yes.
Representative Weston, muted.
Representative Weston votes yes.
Weston votes yes. Representative Connors.
Representative Connors votes yes.
Yes. Representative Vale.
Representative Vale votes yes.
Vale votes yes. Representative Kelly.
Representative Kelly votes yes.
Kelly votes yes. Representative Moran.
Brett Moran votes yes.
Moran votes yes. Representative Berner.
Yes.
Berner votes yes. Representative Saul.
Yes.
Saul votes yes. Representative
Yes.
9 yeas. Motion passes.
Consent?
I move consent.
All right, well, consent calendar.
And ask right now to be on consent.
If you do, I'll be very angry. Go right ahead. You can, if you say no, if you say consent, because that means it will be discussed on the floor and I will have to fight it.
And that means that everything would be looked at individually.
Yes.
Oh, no.
No, well, no.
Oh. Take that person behind the shed. Have a talk.
Well, you do not consent.
They can still pull it off of consent.
You can pull it off if you change your mind. Just notify the clerk.
You can pull it off on the floor.
Yes.
I'll leave that
Just got to notify the clerk for the session.
before session.
Yeah. Day before, you can tell the clerk you want to. I wouldn't recommend it.
No, it looks like grandstanding.
Well, let's keep it. Don't say anything. No more. All right, it is, for now, it is on consent. That closes the executive session. Unless there's any other thing on the executive session, I think we've done all our work as far as that. I will close the executive session. We do have some issues to go over around the messages from the Senate. I don't think it's a requirement that any of these folks who substituted and helped us out say this is just getting advice from as a chair from the rest of the committee on other bills that we had in the Senate and have gotten amended and they're back before us. We're going to have a discussion on those, but you're free to go or you can stay.
It's ultimately your decision anyways. Just gonna take advice. Joe.
Yeah, it is right. It is my decision, but like I say, I value the advice and I also, if I screw up, it's not my fault. They convinced me.
Representative Lascelles can tell when he's not wanted. Proceed home.
We're gonna trust Representative the chairman's concurring and non-concurring.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, we have let me find them all. I got so many folders here. All right. We have 3 bills that have come back to us from the Senate. And you should have, I've sent over the last couple of weeks, sent over side by sides from Brad Greenland. And, House Bill 397, House Bill 99, and House Bill 235. Let's take the easiest to the hardest first.
Oh, God, I'm gonna do the hardest.
Okay, have you got a hold of them all? If not, I can,
Which one you want to do first?
I'm gonna go 397, which is the easiest one. Do you have copies of them? If not, I can take a few minutes and,
Share the screen.
yeah, you have to.
My daughter would have been done 5 minutes ago.
Okay, I have it actually in front of me. You can see that the language, they've accepted all of our language, basically, but they've just simply added a segment to it. If you recall, this is the act concerning concerning the fees under the Shoreland Protection Act that was brought here by Representative Pearl. And there was discussion and negotiation with Rennie Pelletier about during our hearing on what would work. And we came out with the fees would kind of cap at, the permitted fees would be no greater than $3,750. And that was what our bill says. And the Senate agreed with that, but they also tacked on a new paragraph concerning the development at Pease Development in, I guess that's in, I think, Greenland. But where they would add the maximum cash application fee for the Pease Development Authority Division of Ports and Harbors shall be $10,000 per state title pier and docking facility application. I'll tell you where I stand. I would just assume concur, because we got all we want. They haven't affected what we want, and somebody from the coast who has where the Pease Development is, I think that's probably Senator Sherman, probably asked for this. So I have no problem with it, but any thoughts, any comments from members of the committee?
Nope.
So there are no hands raised.
So there are no hands raised, so I'm going to,
Stand by, you got one.
okay.
Representative Spencer.
Representative Smith.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that because the part of the bill that we passed says no permitting fee greater than $3,750, and you could say that some of those applications with Pease could have to do with, state and federal money. And so therefore it's kind of upping their ante a little bit, because I think tidal piers and docking may be a lot more complicated. And so that lower fee wouldn't be a good idea for them. But then also it keeps it from going higher than 10,000. So I think it's a good idea. I think it's reasonable. I would say to concur also.
All right. Any other replies or responses? So
So no other hands are raised.
Okay, let the record show that general agreement on the committee on that we concur, that I send the message of concurrence for House Bill 397. Now let's go to House Bill 99. And that's a little more complicated. This is the bill relative to seasonal platforms on public waters of the state. Go through, page 1 and 2 of the side by side. There's no difference. The Senate version added a little bit of language concerning the platform on they added versions. The person who this is a concerning any person erecting, installing, maintaining, or exercising control over an anchored seasonal platform on any public body of water shall attach his or her name and contact information to any such seasonal platform as provided in this subdivision and in accordance with rules established under RSA 272G. And that's fine. At least I think it is. Any comments on that? There's also they added an additional section that the seasonal platform shall be installed on public waters that support a local, state, or seasonal platforms installed on public waters that support a local, state, or federal government agency or agency subcontractors or a conservation group engaged in the non-recreational activities may be installed provided the platform meets the minimum requirements established in 270-:72D. So they added that section. I don't see an issue with that. They're basically allowing they're saying that they have to be they're allowed. They've added location instead of prohibited, and in the next set of lines, 270 anchored seasonal platform prohibited. They say change that to location. I don't get any heartburn to that.
So Representative Smith has her hand up.
Representative Smith, do you have a comment?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I was just going to clarify a few things, which is and on the last page of the side-by-side on their exemptions that the House did, exempting the agencies and the subcontractors doing non-recreational execution of their duties. And in the side-by-side, it says the Senate removed these exemptions. However, actually what they did is they moved the exemption to section 3 on page 3, and says seasonal platforms that support local, state, or federal government agencies, subcontractors, or conservation groups shall be allowed to do platforms, etc. So it's kind of in there, but they didn't put it in exemptions. They put it in what could be allowed. And then also, we had pretty much just said the person whose platform is removed has to reimburse the department, and the Senate went into great detail on how that would happen and how long Marine Patrol would hold on to the platform. And so they made it a lot tighter, the bill, I think. So I think I think they made good changes. Don't always agree with them, but in this case, I think they did a good job.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in here, nothing I see on this bill that they've made a lot of changes, but they're all either nothing that I would go to war over. So I would just concur. At least that's what I'm leaning toward.
So you have no other hands up?
No other hands up? I'd
concur.
Okay, thank you. I think that's where I'm leaning. I think I'm going to be going. So, on let the record show that, I will be going on House Bill 99. I will concur.
399?
No, this is just 099 or 99. I will be concurring, and that get the general consensus of the we have the consensus of the board of the committee. No issue. Okay, and all right, comparison of the, now we go to 235. This one's gonna be a little bit different. 235 was the small groundwater withdrawal bill. It passed this committee unanimously the year before, or the session before. It also passed unanimously now, this year. The exact same bill. And they didn't have any problem with it. What they did is they tacked on some revisions to the PFAS fund and programs, which is a large multi-million-dollar fund concerning remediation programs for PFAS issues. What has concerned myself and others, Representative Smith in particular, having been the former chairman, under her administration, there was a bill very similar to the PFAS fund. There was a House bill, but that died of COVID. And it was very similar to the Senate version, except one main difference. It did not have anything in it protecting or giving aid to homeowners, individual well owners. And that concerns us. So considering this, non-concurring and requesting a committee of conference. Representative Smith, you want to help me out a little bit more on your background on this?
Sounds good. Thanks, Mr. Chair. As Chair Anzulo said, we had a bill that established the PFAS remediation fund, and it passed resources, it passed the House, it went to Ways and Means, it passed the House again, and then session pretty much closed down for the year. And the Senate added most of the bill we had passed to an omnibus bill, which passed and formed this PFAS remediation, contamination and remediation fund. However, when we passed the bill out of resources and the House passed it, we included municipalities in the people who could apply, as well as private homeowners whose wells had been contaminated by PFAS. Now, when the Senate put it in their omnibus bill, they left out municipalities and private well owners. And then this year, in what they have done to our House Bill 235, which we not only passed and the Senate agrees with, they changed the PFAS fund to include municipalities, but they still neglected to address the private wells and how people who have private wells and have been living on bottled water for like 2 years and still have no avenue for redress on that issue, on getting their water cleaned up. We thought it was really important to add that. So by having one thing that we would request in a committee of conference was adding private well owners, or assuring that by adding municipalities, private well owners were going to be covered. And there's nothing in the amendment that the Senate put on which indicates that private well owners would be helped. The other change that the Senate made was they changed in the purpose statement of the PFAS remediation fund the words per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, to perfluorochemical contamination. And I was very concerned about this because we already have a bill that we passed this year that changes the wording from to per and polyfluoroalkyl substances rather than just PFAS or perfluorochemicals. So I reached out to the Senate sponsor and also to Mike Wimsat at DES. And Mike explained why this language needed to be in, and pretty much it will not change how the maximum contaminant levels, MCLs, law, which we passed last year, which requires PFAS. It makes it clear that the amount of PFAS that is allowed in drinking water. And so it actually clarifies this so that those MCLs will be just, it won't change anything in how we address that law of the MCLs. I know that sounds confusing, but anyway, so I would support as of right now, unless I hear more in between now and the committee of conference, I would support that part, but we do have big concerns, both Chair Renzullo and I, and probably anyone who was on this committee last year and fought to have private well owners included would want us to try to get that included in the bill. And then the bottom line, the next bottom line is that if we cannot come to agreement with the Senate in a committee of conference and they won't budge on the private well owners, we have saved the small groundwater withdrawals, which is the main piece of this bill, by putting it in the bill we just passed a few minutes ago.
That's called politics.
Or belt and suspenders.
That's right, belt and suspenders. Representative Creighton.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just, from my perspective, in District 38, I would estimate that less than 40% of the people fall under city water of some sort. And so the preponderance of people are on well water. And so if you add this in, I think you're helping the majority of the people, at least from District 38.
Thank you. Any other comments? Or Representative Harvey Bullion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, I'm in favor of helping the private well owner with a terrible circumstance of PFAS contamination in their well. I'm just wondering about the process here because it was my understanding that, say a homeowner has contamination, they should, act immediately if one. And then this would, I thought, would incur like a lawsuit. You got PFAS, it's obviously not coming from the homeowner. It's coming from maybe a nearby station or whatnot, or business. And then we would need to sue them. And usually I thought that those sort of procedures, go up to the state hazardous waste Superfund site or a hazardous waste cleanup site, and they sort of handle the monetary part of the cleanup. But there was a system of redress, to my knowledge, is there not?
Mr. Chair, it's really difficult for me anyway to hear the people who are in the room. So I get about half of what the last two speakers have said.
Well, I'm sorry.
Let's see if I can.
Can maybe you've got that's there.
Representative Smith, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can hear you fine.
Okay,
Dave.
I've got the microphone is over here. Just really quickly, I am in favor, of course, nobody wants to leave a homeowner with no redress if they have PFAS contamination in their wells. Thank you. But I was under the impression that there was already a system in place through the state for hazardous waste cleanup. Is there not? Can you speak to how that they are left out of a process of hazardous waste cleanup through the state? Thanks.
We have the Drinking and Groundwater Trust Fund, and which provides money to municipalities and water systems, and it's pretty much the PFAS loan and grant remediation program would operate within that Drinking and Groundwater Trust Fund, I believe, or they would be working side by side. But there is nothing in that, in either of those, that allow a private well owner to ask for remediation funds. Now, one of the arguments against the private well owners applying is because there would be so many people applying, it would be all these small individual claims. And by adding municipalities to this amendment, there is thought that that could help that situation. But I'd like to see it a little more clear rather than, oh yeah, municipalities can then help the private well owners. I'd like it to be more clear that the municipalities would be applying on behalf of private well owners to either hook them up to town water or provide filtration systems for them. Because right now the private well owners, as far as I know, with the PFAS anyway, are left out of the picture. As far as MTBE goes, I don't know if private owners were given remediation on that, but I know that right now for PFAS, they are not getting remediation. And the PFAS fund, as well as the Drinking and Groundwater Trust Fund, are both not where you get 100%. You get 25 to 50% of the cost, and it could be grants or loans, and those funds are looking for matching money. So it's a very complicated process. Does that help at all? I know it's.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think also that we've, the MTBE funds was kind of the model for of how handling contamination lawsuits occurred. That fund was populated with money from a lawsuit that the state sued on behalf of the state and the various towns, and that money is is being used for not simply for MTBE remediation, but also for other capital capital water funding. And there is always discussion around the probable lawsuit against the manufacturers of the PFAS entities, and the expectation is for a significant settlement. So with that,
So I see no further hands raised.
okay, then I'm going to non-concur and request a committee of conference. And any other thoughts on that?
No hands
Maybe
raised.
none. That's what we will do. I will move forward on these three. Anything else that we can talk, we need to talk about? Any issues that before I hit the gavel to adjourn, there will be I will write the blurb on this bill. Luckily, I got a lot of things that are all pre-written. I think I can paste a lot of stuff together.
Sir,
I'll get
Representative
it out.
Smith, just raise your hand.
Representative Smith for,
Do we know if there are any more Senate bills coming our way back with changes, or are we pretty much finished?
I have not heard of any more. No more have been given to me. And I haven't gotten an alert of any more hearings. Usually the committee assistant does alert me when one of our bills is appearing before our committee. And I have not gotten anything since the last ones.
Okay, and secondly, anything on retained bills?
We could not touch retained bills until we're finished here. So we're now finished here.
Yay!
So yeah, we should start thinking about them. But when what we might want to talk about on the retained bills. We probably should have a work session. I think you and I, as the Republican half and the Democrat half of the committee, we will discuss a good time to have some discussion of retained bills, realizing we can talk about them. We can, but we cannot take a vote until sometime in November. I think it's the third week in November to actually dispose of them. But we can, do various things, and we should, unless somebody's taking a long vacation. Any other questions? Any other thoughts?
So there's no hands raised.
Okay, that being the end, I will call this meeting to the rest. We're done.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Well,
Need a